first time I'm using this step. General Anil Chauhan, Chief of Defence Staff, Admiral D.K. Tripathi, Chief of Naval Staff, Air Chief Marshal A.P. Singh, Chief of Air Staff, Lieutenant General Pushpendra Singh, Vice Chief of Army Staff, Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhary, former Chief of Air Staff, Admiral Arun Prakash, former Chief of Naval Staff, foreign defense attaches, scholars and think tanks, academicians and industry leaders, veterans and officers from MOD and our armed forces, friends from media. There is no other, ladies and gentlemen. I am immensely happy to join the Rana Samvad program here on this sacred land of Mahu. This is the very land that gave birth to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, a towering intellectual of our country, and at the same time honored the Indian Army with a glorious tradition of scholar warriors, a tradition that makes the entire nation proud. Friends, the very title of the program, Rana Samvad, strikes me as quite interesting. The name itself is a subject to think about and reflect. And on one hand, Rana evokes the imagery of battle and conflict, and on the other hand, Samvad points towards dialogue, discussion, and reconciliation. At first glance, the two words seem contradictory. Where there is a battle, how can there be a dialogue? And where dialogue is taking place, how can there be a battle? But if we look deeper, this very name embodies one of the most relevant truths of our times. Friends, the name Rana Samvad also has historical basis in India and reminds me of many incidents from our history which show us how civilizationally battles means run and dialogues means Samvad in India were intertwined. In our culture, dialogue is not separate from battle. It comes before the battle. It happens during the battle and it continues even after the battle. Friends, take the Mahabharata for instance. To prevent the war, Lord Sri Krishna went as a messenger of peace. He went to engage in dialogue so that the war could be averted. But when Duryodhana, the antagonist of the epic Mahabharata, refused, the war became inevitable. Even then, during the battle, there was dialogue, and this dialogue is popularly remembered and has been immortalized as a Bhagavad Gita. And after the war was over, there was again dialogue between Yudhishthir and the Bhishma, who lay on his bed of arrows, imparting wisdom of governance and the statecraft. This unique blending of battle and dialogue is something that can only be found in ancient culture such as India. That is why I congratulate you all for choosing such a truly meaningful name for this event. Friends, in today's global environment, it is often the breakdown of dialogue that becomes the root cause of hostility and the conflict. On the other hand, even in times of war, maintaining channels of dialogue remains essential. Many of you would have heard of or read Sun Tzu classic work, The Art of War. In that book, Sun Tzu writes, in war, prepare for peace, and in peace, prepare for war. This shows that from ancient times across the world, war and dialogue have complemented each other. It is therefore a matter of deep satisfaction for me to be present at this Rana Samvad organized through the joint initiative of our tri-services. I am told this is the very first edition of the program, And for that, I extend my heartfelt congratulations to the Chief of Defense Staff and all the three services chiefs and Lieutenant General Shahi, along with my best wishes for the future. Friends, when it comes to dialogue, our Indian philosophical thought accords dialogues a very high place. History bears witness that in our tradition, exchange of ideas and thoughts has never been confined merely to the realm of diplomacy, but has also been an integral part of our cultural development. I believe that today, Ran Samvad is not merely an academic exercise, but one that will further refine our strategic and diplomatic outlook. The thoughts and the conclusions emerging from this dialogue will not only strengthen our defense strategy, but also make a long-term contribution to the nation's overall security architecture and its path of development. Friends, as we begin our discussion on the Ran Samvad, I would like to start with the idea of Ran or battle itself. Since the dawn of civilization, war has been an inseparable part of the human society. And history bears witness to the fact that wars have always left behind devastating consequences. No matter the era or the geography, the outcome of war has invariably been destruction. The loss of human lives and the resources in war can never be justified. Friends, at the very outset, let me emphasize that India has never been a nation that seeks war. We have never initiated aggression against anyone. However, the present geopolitical reality is quite different. Even though we do not harbor any aggressive intent, if someone challenges us, it becomes imperative that we respond with strength. To do so, we must continuously enhance our defense preparedness. This is why training, technological advancement, and a sustained dialogue with partners are of utmost importance for us. Referring to the concept note you shared for the Ran Samvad program, I noticed a very insightful quote from Karl von Clausewitz. He said, "Each age has its own peculiar form of war." In his time, this observation was entirely appropriate. But the present era is defined by non-linear and multi-domain warfare. Today, there is no fixed system of war, no rigid doctrine that we can blindly rely upon. Hence, I would like to state, in the present age, there is no definite peculiar form of war. Friends, if we, for instance, consider the age of colonialism, when naval power was the foremost symbol of strength across the world, nations with formidable and well-equipped navies not only dominated sea trade routes, but also extended their influence over distant lands. The British Empire is the most striking example of this. During that era, Alfred Thayer, sea power theory, gained prominence wherein he declared, "Who rules the sea rules the world." However, the times changed, and by the mid-20th century, the two world wars shifted the center of power towards the skies. Air forces of nations across the world transformed the very nature of warfare. Battles were no longer confined to land or sea. Instead, air superiority became the decisive factor. The Battle of Britain stands out as a remarkable example where the Royal Air Force Spitfires and Hurricanes halted Germany's offensive in the air itself. Since the 1950s, the importance of air power has continued to grow significantly. Friends, after the Second World War, the world entered a new phase, the Cold War era. Though it was not a direct battlefield confrontation, it was marked by an arms race and a series of the proxy wars. During this period, missile technology became the new benchmark of military power. Weapons such as intercontinental ballistic missiles, submarine launched missiles, and cruise missiles transformed warfare into a matter of minutes. The 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis was the peak of this tension, when just a few days of standoff brought the entire world to the brink of nuclear war. Friends, today in the 21st century, this transformation has become more rapid. Sheer numbers of soldiers or the size of weapon stockpiles are no longer enough. Cyber warfare, artificial intelligence, unmanned aerial vehicles, and satellite-based surveillance are shaping the wars of the future. Precision-guided weapons, real-time intelligence, the data-driven information have now become the cornerstone of success in any conflict. Friends, modern battles are no longer confined to land, sea, and air. They now extend into outer space and cyberspace. Satellite systems, anti-satellite weapons, and space command centers are the new instruments of power. Therefore, what we require today is not just defensive preparedness, but also a proactive strategy. Friends, future wars will not merely be battles of weapons. They will be a combined play of technology, intelligence, economy, and diplomacy. In the times ahead, the nation that masters the triangle of technology, strategy, and adaptability will emerge as the true global power. To put it simply, this is the moment to learn from history and write a new one. That is the moment to anticipate the future and shape one. It was observed closely. Systems and doctrines of war have evolved with time. In just the past 10 to 20 years, the pace of these changes has been so rapid that fixing any permanent pattern has become almost impossible. It would not be wrong to say the age we live in has just one doctrine, that there is none. Circumstances and the challenges change with such speed that every nation is compelled to keep its strategy flexible and responsive. Friends, today in the world, whichever nation decides the battlefield is the one that controls the game and its rules. Others have no option but to respond to this and step into the arena on terms that are not of its own choosing. Our endeavor must be to define the battlefield and the rules of the game ourselves, compelling the adversary to fight there so that the lead advantage always remains with us. Friends, the success of Operation Sindoor is the perfect example in itself. The bravery and the swiftness with which our forces carried out action against the terrorist shelter in Pakistan was something those terrorists could never have been imagined. I firmly believe that every war leaves us with some important learnings. In the course of battle, we are able to realistically assess the level of our preparedness. If we speak the Operation Sindoor, it was indeed a striking demonstration of technology-driven warfare. Friends, be it offensive or defensive techniques, operational practices, quick and efficient war logistics, the seamless integration of our forces are matters of the intelligence and the surveillance. Operation Sindoor gave us a wealth of nations. It provided us with a glimpse of the kind of the challenges and responses that could serve as a valuable guidance for any conflict in the future. You may also have observed that Operation Sindoor has emerged as a great example demonstrating the success of our indigenous platforms, equipment, and the weapon systems. Its achievements have once again underlined that in the